My name's Chris, and welcome to the first of a series that I'm going to be starting that's looking at actual songs and applying theory and understanding to them to make it easier for you to learn songs, use your ear. This can really service so many things. So if you're a beginner or an intermediate musician, or maybe an advanced musician looking for maybe another understanding on how to learn tunes, or if you just want to learn how to play something by the Beatles on guitar, this is the video for you. So I want to jump in today. I've got a kind of a bullet point list behind me. This will serve me for now. I want to work down through this list here and talk about this tune and give you some understandings that I think can be helpful as you learn other songs that are akin to this, or really any song. I probably won't cover all this in one video. I'm going to split it up. But jump in with me here. If you play guitar, you're welcome to play along with me and maybe learn some different voicings. And I will also talk about how pianists, or really anyone who plays chords, can approach this as well. The first thing I want to cover today are just the basics of this tune something. I will also have a chart linked in the description, a PDF. It's going to look like this. Can't see it well, but it will be a lot easier to read there. This is something I would make myself if I had to play this today for a gig, or you know, a song that I didn't know that was similar to this, similar level, really any kind of tune. If you know how to make charts well, you really serve yourself well. You're giving yourself a great blueprint and preparation for a gig, for whatever you're going to do. It really solidifies things. And if you notice, this chart's in numbers. So I'll be talking about the number aspect of this, but any kind of chord chart would work great. And I'll talk more about charts and the advantages of that. So the first basic thing you want to know when learning a song or having an understanding of it is a really bird's eye view over a map, or kind of the map of the tune, of the form. I wrote the form down here. So this tune, we have kind of an older style song with like verses and a bridge, or the head and the bridge. Lots of terms we can use, none of them matter. You can call them whatever you want, but this song does not have a chorus like Let It Be, right, by the Beatles, or Don't Stop Believin', like an obvious chorus, right, and the lesser verses. This one's more about like the verses are the main thing, and the bridge kind of breaks it up. So we have an A-A-B, A-A form, right? So we have two verses at the beginning in the key of C. And then the bridge is in another key, which is kind of cool. Not super uncommon, but definitely uncommon by today's standards to modulate into another key. It's kind of a clever little hack to breathe new life into another part of the song. And by the time we get back to the guitar solo, we're back in the key of A. The guitar solo plays on the main chord progression at the beginning. And then we have one more verse to end it off, and we have a little tag that's not up there. So we go from the key of C to A back to C. And there's some cool stuff about those keys, the relationship between those I'll cover later on. If you are more on the lesser side of experience and you don't know a lot of these chords in the song, if you look up the chords online, that's going to obviously be something to grapple with, though you can definitely simplify these chords. So you're going to see, well, we'll see all the kind of harmony in this song, like C major 7, C7, A minor 7. There's a lot of these kind of like details on the A minor and C chord especially. And then there's also D7, or maybe just a weird chord like E flat. And you're like, where's E flat on this thing, right? So that's the difficulty with playing these songs in a certain kind of high fidelity way. There's no wrong way to play it though. So if someone were to play a C chord at the beginning, you know, sounds good, but there's kind of several chords in there. So we're going to zoom into those more nuanced harmonies, right? So the basics, I would approach like really know a tune well, especially the form. Really understand the form. Write it down, right? So on this chart, how to read it is that every number, every individual number, just see a little bit of it here. Not great, but it's not focusing. There it goes. Every individual number is 4 beats, and every underlying group of things is also 4 beats. So I have an understanding exactly what's happening in that tune at all times. And I know exactly where it's going. I know that the A section, I know the form basically, every detail of the form. So that's a kind of a high level preparation, but I think it's great if you can get better at that, because then every song you play, you're gonna have an understanding of where the time is, if that makes sense. You'll know, okay, we have a 1 measure intro, right? That's what I put on this. I even put the drum fill going in, right? So I am aware of 2 and 3, 4, song, and then we have the tune, right? So it's not so much a lyrical reference or a lyrical familiarity, though that's helpful. Of course, you need that if you're singing the song. It's more like based on the beats, right? So that is a large understanding that I think accrues when you start to level up musically. You really think in terms of the kind of foundation of the tune, not so much like the part people listen to, like the lyrics, or maybe it's all the stuff on top, like electric guitar or whatever. We're thinking more, what's the bass player thinking, right? Which is a really good way to think about chords. So that's number 1 in a nutshell. I forgot to mention this, but I also have a blog post accompanying this, so I will link that in the description as well. I highly recommend reading through that. This is where I took these numbers from. And it goes into more detail, but this is just to kind of flesh out that. Number 2, so this is getting into some of these details, right? What I call tiny harmony. So we're getting these shades of harmony on these certain chords. So we start off this song by going like this, C, and the melody of the tune does this with us. Something in the way she moves. And we have the C major 7, isn't that beautiful? And I talk about the qualities of these chords in the blog post more, how these feel. And a 7, I love what Jacob Collier says about 7 chords. I heard him say this in a masterclass, I believe, that the 7 tells you where the chord wants to go. Meaning to me that major 7 is super comfortable, right? It's kind of like defiantly comfortable. It's like it's not this. It's like a soft, like relaxed this, right? Jazzy, soft focus, right? And there's all these kinds of ways you can feel this chord. Really, really pretty. And that B in that chord goes down to B flat on the C7. And now a 7 chord, a dominant chord, like a C7's, C dominant 7, this is really unstable typically, or it has a bluesy aesthetic. And this chord resolves finally, the B flat goes down to the A and the F. Right, and that will come back later. We'll talk about maybe part 2, that's like a secondary dominant kind of thing. But this is a super common sound, right? I'll make sure and have these examples in the blog post as well. But this sound can be found a lot of places. Hopefully it's ringing a bell, right? A few examples. There's a song by the band Dr. Dog called The Breeze. That's really pretty, and it's an A, but it goes, da, 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 and it changes. A goes to another chord. But or Kiss Me by Sixpence and the Richer. I think it does something like this. I think it goes down like 1 major 7, soft, right? 1 7, and I think it goes back up, I believe. So be listening for that. One more example, Billie Eilish, I think, has a tune called My Future. And I'm going off my ear here. So this points to a larger point that I'll just do a quick PSA for, is that music theory, if it's just here, if it's like abstract, conceptual, you think you learn the rules and you know what something is, you can label it, but you can't use it, is useless. Like, right? Just forget it. It's better to not learn it and find something you can use. So when I'm thinking about these chord progressions, I wrote them down, but I'm also like playing the song in my head and trying to hear that emotionally, that is that, right? If that makes sense. I'm not thinking, oh yeah, Sixpence None the Richer, their song Kiss Me has a D and a D major 7 and a D7. And I think that's the same as this. It's more like, I know what this feels like, and I want to try to find it and kind of sense it in other songs and be like, oh yeah, that sounds like this. So then you might hear a song like something that reminds you of something. Something's a funny, this is like who's on first kind of, right? So that's an important part, like let it be more organic, right? just like if I ask you, have you seen that really crazy red car that always parks on our street that's just bright red? I'm not asking you to think about that in an abstract way. You're probably going to picture that car, right? You're going to have the sensation of picturing that car even if you're not looking at it. That's what we're going for, right? But especially when you see that car or whatever it is, it's a more emotional, organic reaction. It's a sense, it's not a memory thing, right? So, okay, so the tiny harmony thing happens one other spot. And if you reference the chart, you'll see this. The part at the end of the A section. So we can play through this real quick. You know, these chords, if you're a guitarist, they're really actually really comfortable, right? That goes hand in hand. Often people write these chords because they're comfortable on guitar, and to learn them is not too bad usually. Especially earlier music, the more modern, the more piano or something's invoked when writing songs, or keyboard, or like it's changed, the keys are more modern or different, you know, but back in the day, they just picked up a guitar and wrote a song. It was a lot more direct, I think. So we get D7, right, G, and then we have this A minor thing. So I like to play this, you can play this lots of ways, but take this A minor and then take the middle note down a note, down a half step. This A minor kind of major 7. That might be labeled a few things on the chord chart, and then A minor 7. Right, you hear the same little thing. I mentioned in a blog post, this is referred to in classical music as a line cliche, which my understanding of that is it is a movement, a harmonic movement within one chord. And I think it gets that from like a constant use, or not constant, but popular use in like Tin Pan Alley, like really early American music. So you often hear stuff like that, like going like, it's like kind of, you might, you know, it's like really, it draws the ear in, it's going somewhere. And that's kind of what that sort of thing is doing. Instead of playing C to F, I can go C major 7, C7, F. Oh yeah, I interrupted myself. Billie Eilish tune My Future, I think they do this. I think it starts on C major 7. So the chorus is like C7, goes to F. And then F minor, I think, which is another kind of little movement thing, which is kind of cool, right? Just like little half step thing. So the other spot though, really quickly, A minor. We have A minor major 7. It's a mouthful, and then A minor 7. So that's not too bad to play them like that, just open position chords. And then D7, right? So some overall pretty friendly chord voicings in here. But if you've never thought about or known how to kind of interpret those like little small movements, this is a good kind of entry into that. And they're usually done on like the 1 chord as it is at the beginning, right? Or maybe on the 6th chord. They might be done other spots. They usually too, these kind of line cliche things, change the kind of vibe of the chord. It makes it want to go somewhere, right? That's kind of what's going on here, right? If let's say I have a song that was like G augmented. Do you feel that pull? And where are we going now, right? G6, G7, right? Isn't that cool? So one more little thing about line cliches for more intermediate or advanced musicians, they're usually moving the 5th, moving it up, like there, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, or it's moving 1 going down, because between 5 and 1, like, you know, so latido, that's the rich movement of like all the major, the 7s and the 6s and all that are there, right? All those notes are there that we add. So that might be too in the weeds. It's okay if it is. But these are sounds that are really, really common. That's the nice thing here. And we're always trying to find like ways to make this less abstract. I can't tell how many songs do this kind of thing, right? 1 major 7, 1 7 4. Or maybe it's on the 6th chord and we're going like Stairway to Heaven. right? So these things, that's how this is like learnable at all, right? Is that these are extremely repeatable things in popular music, and they're often done in very contextual, repeatable ways, right? It's like if you like going to, I'm sure there's plenty of good examples here. If you go swimming all day, you're probably going to want to eat something really yummy after. You're going to be hungry. That's going to maybe shape your entire day, right? There's a lot of context there. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to go swimming and then I'm going to do whatever else. It's like we're very habitual, and we are in music as well. There's a lot, these chord progressions tend to want to do certain things. And I'll probably wrap up today with number 3. This is talking about just all the colors we have in the song that are not just a triad, like just a C chord, right? So obviously in number 2, those things are included. We call this stuff, fancy term for it, non-diatonic, meaning it's not in the home key, right? So when I play C, beautiful, C major 7, beautiful, right? We're still in the key of C, and then C7. Now I'm kind of like left the key of C for a sec, right? Just a little bit. And then that kind of pulls us to the 4 chord. So it's extremely temporary, right? The extended harmony though, in general in this song, there's a lot of 7 chords. There are a lot of that kind of thing. So like the 2 spots, the A minor spot on the don't wanna leave it now, that part. We have these chords that kind of go outside the key for a second. It's usually like we start in the key, we go outside for a second, just that one note, and it goes back in, right? That's kind of what happens too at the beginning. Well, actually, here we go out, right? Little tiny different there, but you know, these things again are conceptual until they're not, hopefully. I would use your ear here and really try to feel like the kind of micro of like, what does a 7 chord sound like? And how many can I play? Right, that's a good thing to do too. So you can look up, you know, can I play blues? Can I play, how many 7 chords can I play in open position or whatever, however you can kind of relate this to your instrument. So that's kind of like, what vocabulary do I have in order to play this? And then you can take it the next step. You could like learn the ones you don't know. So I might go through and say, okay, can I play major 7 chords for every chord I know? Like, kind of figure out, you know, you can do it like that. That's a real micro kind of way of doing it. Then you could maybe even play 7 chords. I'm using the term 7 chords to mean any kind of 7 chord, not just dominant, but major or minor. Going through a whole key, playing all the chords in the key, which is really getting into the thick of, I think, good work that you want to do when learning about, when zooming out and trying to get wise to the game a little bit, right? Instead of like learning just song after song and you're like, how can I teach myself songs better? How can I write my own songs? How can I develop a better ear? Then we start studying harmony. We might study, okay, can I play every chord in the key of C? Can I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however you like to play them? Can I play every 7 chord in the key of C? So instead of triads, doing 4 notes each. You know, on guitar, that looks how it looks, right? Major 7, minor 7, minor 7. They're gonna sound a certain way depending on how you play them. What's the next one? Dominant 7, minor 7, and then minor 7 flat 5. We don't use that one in this song. Back to 1. And that one's really rare outside of, I feel, mainly jazzy-ish or jazz adjacent stuff. And you could do that up the neck. Depending on where you're at, right? If you're ready for that kind of thing, you could go up and like learn some jazz voicings and go up the neck and figure out that standardized way of studying harmony in every key or in whatever key you can feel like you can tend to and understand, right? So in the key, on guitar, the key of C is great, the key of G, those are really good spaces to study harmony and to get your kind of foothold at first. That being said, on this tune, you know, go through, and this is a great song as an entry point. So you can say, I know nothing about 7 chords. I don't know what this guy's saying at all, but I found a chord chart for this song or a good lesson, and I can play some of these sounds. And these sounds are, you know, they're adding more quality, more detail, right? On my guitar chord family series about different voicings, that's all about adding quality, right? And any instrument you play, you can add more quality to what you're doing. And it's not to play it in any certain way particularly, it's just like so you have options, and so you ultimately enjoy the music making experience more, right? I'm reminded of my wife and I, who have a lot of differences, which is great. I love cooking, she hates cooking. And it's just funny to me that, like, you know, there's other things that I'm really bad at that she loves. And when you're really bad at something or it's kind of foreign, the quality aspect, we're not thinking about it at all. It's more about quantity. And that's where it starts, is quantity. Like, you know, can I follow all the exact things in a recipe? And will it taste good or whatever? Then it's more like, okay, well, I think I've got a sense of this. Now let me try to go off book, or let me try to just make something, or let me try to improve something if it needs improving. If I make a sandwich and it's not that good, can I add something to it? Like, how can I make this better, right? So we kind of go from quantity to quality. And if you're ready for this kind of tune to just learn how to play it, that's great. That will lead you to the next thing, right? And even if these chords, like there's a lot of chords and it takes you a while to get it down, I think it's still fruitful, right? But just don't pick too big of a battle, right? So I would not give someone Bohemian Rhapsody to learn if they're a beginner guitarist and they know 3 or 4 chords. And this is a mistake we constantly make as teachers. Speaking for myself, I've had to really learn how to meet someone right where they are and really tell them that, you know, you have to, whatever you're learning, you have to thoroughly apply it and like understand how thorough that needs to be, right? And how, if it's an uphill battle the whole way, of course you're not going to learn it. Of course it's not going to stick, right? So if you don't know any of this stuff, you might want to learn some easier tunes. But once you're ready, it can be great to learn some like more qualitative things, like how to play a song with, you know, however many chords something has, probably 15 or 20, right? We have a couple different keys here. And it's also learning what it feels like to simplify. And that's totally cool. Everyone does that, right? So I would go through and start to think, okay, the gist of this part is A minor. And then you can start to slowly have the framework to move around. And you'll notice that these are, yeah, they're individual chords, but they're just going somewhere, right? They're just like, it's more like, I would not write in a song that goes like this, like, you could write D, D sus4, D, D sus2, D, but that's just a D chord, right? It's like just moving around pretty D sounds. It kind of has movement to it, right? But these kinds of things have a little bit more gravity to them, right? That harmony is really contextual, and it's really wanting to go somewhere and resolve. And this is what good harmony does, is it kind of takes us on this ride, right? It pulls your ear along. It's like, hey, we're going somewhere. This is the opposite of like what modern pop music often does, which is kind of more like get you in a trance. So that's kind of another thing with the extended harmony. You're going to see older tunes or certain genres of music use this kind of more autonomous harmony, if that makes sense. Like this harmony sounds a very particular way, and it's kind of taking you through. It's like, here's my house, here's a really jazzy room, and then here's a corridor where we're going to another room that's the 4 chord. And this room feels really good, right? And then we have another chord here. We have the 2, the D7, which is taking us another place to this G. And this G ultimately wants to go back to C, but we don't go there. We go to A minor. And then we have this kind of, you know, there's a journey here, right? Versus a song with just like 1, 4, 5, or whatever, you know, take a modern chord progression. Like 4, 1, 6, 5. There's kind of a feeling of just like, yeah, we're just in this, we're in the living room and it feels good. I'm not gonna like leave it all. So I'm using a lot of weird terminology to talk about music here, but I think it might be helpful to get a sense of what I'm talking about, right? That's how we want to interface with these things is, yeah, use your left brain, use chord voicings, like that's totally fine, but realize that ultimately we're trying to train our ear and our intuition, and you think of some really useful language here to zoom out to really make it easier to learn other songs. Okay, so I'll probably leave it at that today. To review quickly, we have the basics. We'll check out that chart. I think it will be helpful, and it kind of gives you a sense of how this is kind of called Nashville numbers. You know, this way of writing charts with like numbers. You see, there's different sections. I know it's terrible trying to get it to focus, but let's see. Click on this. New camera, sorry, and also bad at YouTube. So I have the intro there, the verse. I have two A's in boxes. Those are the form. A turnaround, new key. I've got the modulation. It might seem kind of crazy that I'm doing this in numbers, but to me, my brain, like once the numbers click, this clicks hard. And I tell people often, as an aside with numbers, I would rather have that than a chord chart. It's hard to explain why. The main thing is context. Like when I see 1 instead of C, my brain is like, yeah, we're in the living room. Like it's not so like we're in a room and it happens to be the living room in this house or whatever. It's like tell me exactly what I'm doing, where I'm at, how it's going to feel even, right? So that's kind of why we would use numbers over chords. Although this song, because of all the non-diatonic stuff, you know, changing keys and all the little micro movements, I totally understand if numbers wouldn't make sense at first. Of course, you can cut your teeth on easier harmony tunes, stuff, you know, diatonic chords. And the thing about that is like that understanding doesn't get overwritten. It just gets kind of clarified and goes deeper with harder harmony, right? Like this, that's a little bit more expansive. So you want to know the form. You want to really know the form. We didn't even talk about the A section or the bridge. We'll get to that next time. But it goes to the key of A, and we have a little walk down, right? That will walk down, just to briefly talk about it, and then I'll review it next time. It's like an A major 7. So you almost think it's going to do this, right? Like before. Instead, we get A major 7, A6, A. Or you might hear it in the bass. Right, so it's kind of it's in the same key of A. We're just walking down in the scale. 1 7 6 5. A few tunes do this. I even had a list here. Let me pull it up. It's here's some examples of that. Or maybe I don't have any. Okay, I don't. But several songs do that in the key like that. That's a real common sound. Or we go in the other direction, going like. That kind of sound, right? It's a little bit, it's not as exploratory. It doesn't have quite as much tension as this first one in C. Right, just a little different ways of moving. And if they're really applied, you don't have to memorize this stuff. You're gonna feel it and hear it, right? You might even you'll find yourself humming along in songs. Like you'll hear a song that goes like, right? Or maybe it's bum, bum, like that one I should played. So you'll kind of get a sense of this is 5, this is 6, 7, 6, or 7, 1, right? Wherever you're wanting to lead to. It's all about leading to the next chord. That kind of reviews the tiny harmony. I would check out what those chords mean ultimately from how they're defined or whatever. But it's really the sound. You want to understand the sound. So playing just an A major 7 or a C7 or a D7, and then play the normal version. And you can kind of hear what that does. Especially, it's all about the next chord. Like D7 to G is stronger than D to G. And we'll talk more about that. It's voice leading. All right? Right? A little bit stronger. So that's a little overview of the tiny harmony. Extended harmony, kind of in the same vein. I would just clarify what you know. That's kind of a good thing to know. Have a pulse on what chords do I know? How many chords do I know? And not like weird, arbitrary, hard ones. Think more, can I play all the diatonic 7 chords in the key of C or key of G or whatever? So Google that if you don't know what that means, and I'll have some maybe videos on that in the future. Okay, and then we will get on to 4 through 6 next time. We'll talk about secondary dominance, secondary subdominance, which is a thing I think I invented, but I'll talk about what that is and why you want to know it, how it helps. And then also some of these riffs that happen in the song, and then finally some of the larger picture things at the end, what keys and like the significance of going from C to A, and also the significance of the E flat at the beginning of that song or of something, which is so interesting and kind of out of nowhere. So hopefully this has been helpful. If you have never kind of delved into a song like this, I'll be back with more videos in this series, taking a specific song and talking about it. Again, check out the blog post on this tune. Let me know if you have any questions on anything I went over or would like more information or how to study another song like this. I will wrap up with this point, which is kind of takes any whys you might have, like why should I do this? Why should I care? What use is it to do this? And the use would be, well, this is how you test this understanding. If you really understand this, can I play this tune for one at all? And also, can I play it in another key? Right, so that really, I think, exercises all this stuff. And you could also say, can I recognize these sounds? Can I really get to know them? Can I understand when I'm in a song and I hear like, and I have an understanding of where that might go, you know, to hear that next chord. That's one major 7, 1 7 goes to 4. And again, this is not conceptual. It's more like my ears, like what's going to happen here? I'm expecting something. I kind of, oh, that sounds like something, right? I'm like, oh, there's that walk down, and then maybe it goes to another chord. It doesn't go to the 4. It goes to something else. It keeps on walking down, right, or something, right? We're trying to have that understanding and context going into musical situations. That way we're not always like starting from square one, which I think a lot of people start from, this kind of arbitrary space. So think about that in a larger perspective of like when you're learning anything theoretical. Like, how does this benefit me? Can I get to know the sounds here better? Can I also maybe play this in another key? So I'm going to go and wrap up today. My dog's barking, and I will see you next time. Make sure and like and subscribe if this has been helpful. Thanks.